up, everybody? I am your host, Shane Mallory, joined by my co-host,
Ricky DeCosta.
And you know what time it is? It's time to...
Run it back!
Run it back. Yo, guys, big news, first of all. Episode 10, and you know what? I introduced myself wrong, actually. Shane Mallory, a.k.a. T-Sizzle, a.k.a. T...
Swifties!
Taylor Swift!
Swifties!
Yes. Taylor Swift, hey, this is in honor of the game over the weekend, because apparently I think they need her back to the games, all right?
Her or you?
Maybe a little bit of both.
They
need some of that Swiftie karma. Warning you now, folks, I won't have this wig on the whole time. It is close to unbearable.
Listen, he needs to.
But the things
just like the Chiefs, they need the luck. They need the Swifties.
They do. Listen, the things I will do for love, okay? This is a costume idea for my wife, so I just want to shout out to her that I've got it on right now. But crazy and exciting weekend in sports. But episode 10, you had a unique stat for us.
Listen, at the end of the day, guys, 80% of podcasts don't make it to episode 10. So we appreciate the love. We appreciate the feedback. Continue to like, continue to comment, continue to subscribe. Follow us on all major platforms, YouTube, Instagram, Apple Podcasts. Like, we love the feedback. We love the comments.
I interact with all the people in the comments, too, as well. I mean,
hey, you guys shut him down. You shut down his Instagram for a day.
Yes,
so
they did.
Keep it coming. Listen,
seems like a long time ago, too.
I know, right?
And shout out to you Cowboys fans, too. Heck of a win this weekend, man. You really put it on those Rams. Don't get ahead of yourselves, though, because the big one is one coming up this week, guys. So, but crazy weekend of sports.
A lot of breaking news. A lot of breaking news.
We're changing it up a little bit for this segment, actually.
Absolutely.
And I'm actually going to have to take this off just
already.
For now. It keeps coming into my face, and I'm trying to get it on before the end.
What is happening?
It is rough over there.
Swifties, do you want him to put it back on? Come on.
I will definitely make it
back in there.
I think I've got to fix it a little bit because it keeps parting like right to the middle, and like I can barely
Hey, no
see.
excuses. Play like a champion.
I
Rule
will.
76.
The wig will come back on, but kind of us overall, we got the trade deadline, right? So we had the NFL trade deadline.
Yep.
I think it actually, I don't know the exact cutoff time for today.
4 p.m. Eastern.
4 p.m. Okay, so it's technically over. Wasn't anything crazy, but I guess the biggest news, obviously, is Chase Young going over to the San Francisco 49ers.
The rich get richer.
Yeah. Well,
right?
give me your thoughts on that move.
So listen, at the end of the day, you trust Kyle Shanahan, you trust Lynch, the GM, and defensive line, offensive line, they win championships. Right now, they're missing a lot in the secondary, and so they're doubling down. They got Randy Gregory, they got Chase Young now, they got Nick Bosa,
and they lead the NFL in pressures. They're not high in sack totals,
right?
Yes,
Nick is leading the league in pressure.
And they're top 5 as well as a team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think this now will ultimately provide them the depth to go all the way to the Super Bowl because they can have a great rotation. And maybe with this now, you can throw Chase in the middle.
Sure.
You can really mix up your defensive line. You can actually go back to what the New York Giants did when they won their Super Bowl, and they had 4 defensive end, their NASCAR package.
Yep.
They
mixed a lot of guys around.
Exactly.
Tuck would play on the outside.
So you think about it. You got Nick Bosa, you got Chase Young, you got Randy Gregory,
Arik Armstead,
Hargrave
well,
in there.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a 4-man rush right there.
Sure. Well, it's nice to have those rotational pieces too as well on your D line. I mean, there is no secret. You know me. I've said this since we started. I want pass rushers, and I want to be able to get after the quarterback. To me, it's the most important statistic in measuring whether a team can go for that big run. If you've got pass rushers, you've got a chance to go all the way. Obviously, provided you need other prerequisite pieces, but you got to be able to get after the quarterback. So I'm never going to say no to a team adding more pass rushers. I guess when I look at San Francisco, my question about the move is, it's not to me that San Francisco was devoid of talent. Now, they've had a little bit of a rough stretch, but I think people almost forgot. They started the season all 5-0. Defense was amongst the best in the league. They've been brought back to earth the last couple of weeks. Purdy obviously looks a little bit banged up. He might not be 100%.
Hey, listen, I think that... So there's 2 things that I think that are going on with the 49ers right now. Brock Purdy is not 100%, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, listen, you can lie and easily pass those, concussion tests. But for the quarterback position, with the volume of mistakes that he's making, that
something's
tells
off.
me there's something off.
Sure.
And don't get me wrong, he's missing Debo.
Yep.
Right. With this week off, with this bye, he's gonna have an opportunity to rest up and heal up. So
the
I
team,
think,
too, in general. No Trent Williams, too, I think has been huge for them as well.
100%.
You're seeing teams get a lot more pressure on them.
So they've lost 3 in a row. Listen, I'm not freaking out.
Yeah.
I think they have the recipe for success. I think Brock Purdy's going to get better.
Seahawks have the division right now, too.
Well, listen, when they play head-to-head, we're going to see.
Sure.
Like I said, we talk about a season is long, and we're at the midway point, right?
Yeah.
So you get bumps, you get bruises, you get injuries.
Sure.
And sometimes, I'll be honest, you just get bored, right? Because it is such a long, grueling season.
Yeah.
But I'm a believer in the 49ers. I'm a believer in Brock Purdy. He's going to get it together, and then this is going to be a blip on the radar. If they end up 14-3, what is it? Who remembers that they lost 3 in a row,
Sure.
right? And so I think they're still going to win the division. They're still my Super Bowl pick, and I'm a believer in the 49ers. Versus, let me say this, right? We talked about the 49ers, the rich getting richer. What did the Cowboys do? Right?
It's interesting.
Now, again,
heck of a game this weekend for them, though. Hats off.
Hats off to them. But regarding the trade deadline, they should have went after Derrick Henry. They should have went after Devontae Adams. Listen, if you got to give up a first, if you got to give up a third, package a few things together, you put Derrick Henry on that team, you've solidified their run game. If I'm not mistaken, Derrick Henry, right, is fifth
in total rushing yards right now.
Total rushing yards right now, but he's old, he's 30, right?
And still
Every
play.
reason you're not to have him, but you a little lightning and thunder with Derrick Henry and Pollard. That would have been a very nasty tag team. Or you go Devontae Adams, you pair him with CeeDee Lamb, and you got Cooks in the middle.
Sure.
That would be epic.
Yeah.
So the Cowboys want to win a Super Bowl, but they didn't make the big move, right? Last year, the 49ers got McCaffrey. We're seeing the dividends that it's paying now.
Absolutely.
And now they went out and got defensive help, Chase Young. The Cowboys could have done more or something to improve the team. They could have went and got a cornerback to provide depth at that position. So listen, I think, staying pat isn't always the answer.
Sure.
And you have to keep up with the Joneses. And right now, the 49ers are making moves to get better, thinking long-term, thinking playoffs, thinking Super Bowl. And I think the Cowboys think they're good enough.
So it's interesting, everything that you said about both the 49ers and the Cowboys. And when I go back to the 49ers, the rumors that I had earlier in the day that they were in discussions with the Broncos to acquire the services of one Patrick Surtain. Now, if there's any weakness on the 49ers, I felt like it might have been the secondary. So when I saw the Chase Young move, I have to admit, I was a little surprised and taken aback because I didn't think that was a weakness. However, I guess what the 49ers are basically saying is, let's double down on this. Let's just be able to get after the quarterback, have a rotation of pass rushers, and maybe our secondary doesn't necessarily need to be the elite of the elite to go and compete.
When we get some time, I want to talk about the NFL trading deadline and the NBA trading deadline.
Absolutely.
Because you brought up the Broncos.
Yes.
Why were the Broncos not sellers?
Great point.
Jerry Jeudy,
teams across the league.
Patrick Surtain. You gave up so much for Russell Wilson, and clearly that has not been a winning move. Yes, you've won a couple games recently, but you have to think about the bigger picture.
Sure.
And Sean Payton is going to be there for a long time. If you could have flipped Patrick Surtain for probably a first, a third, and a
especially
fifth
where
round
you are
pick,
as the Broncos,
where you are right now, can you compete with the Ravens? Yes, you beat the Chiefs, but pound for pound, can you compete with the Chiefs?
They also played twice in the span of 18 days. So
18 days. Patrick Mahomes was sick with the flu, right? You can't compete with the Bills,
sure,
right? You can't compete with the Bengals. So the upper echelon teams, the Broncos.
You talking about my Bengals?
Listen.
What are you talking about? All right.
Listen.
I'm just wondering.
Right? Listen, hey, them
look
boys.
like a dangerous team all of a sudden, huh?
Hey, Burrow is healthy.
Yeah.
Burrow is healthy. Hey, I'm a believer, a lover in Chase, right?
Listen,
T. Higgins,
don't
he's
go
the
into
man.
the Tiger's cage.
Mixon?
Don't go into the Tiger's cage and expect not to get bit.
Listen. The Broncos can't compete with those teams. They should have been sellers.
Sure.
So I have an issue with the general manager. I have an issue with Sean Payton. And just because you win 1 or 2 games doesn't mean you're going to make the playoffs. Doesn't mean you're going to compete for a Super Bowl.
Sure.
And you got to be thinking long term, especially in the NFL. And they missed out on a huge opportunity to flip Surtain, to get rid of Jerry Jeudy, and to sell off a couple other pieces that they could have brought in first, second, and third round picks to get younger, build a team in Sean Payton's vision. right, with the guys and characters that he's looking for, because clearly that team needs a little bit of a reset.
Well, it's twofold, right? Again, you talked about why are the Broncos not sellers. I even look at someone like Vegas, and I think the game is a great example of it last night. We had talked during the first quarter. I had said, if you're a team like Vegas, I mean, Davante Adams, first of all, he came out with a report the other day. He's happy to be a Raider. You saw him last night. He's not. He's anything but happy. You're looking at a top 5 talent easily in the league at the position who's just not being able to, whether it's play calling. Jimmy G the one night, just the one throw last night, just missed him on a wide open. I mean, Davante Adams wide open down the sideline, and he just overthrew him. And you could just see Davante finally go off to the sideline, frustrated.
There's been over 110 passing targets to Davante Adams that have been incomplete, leading the league. So they're throwing him the ball.
So is that a combination of both scheme in terms of how they're throwing the ball, but then also who's throwing it?
Listen, I think it's who's throwing it. They're not throwing it in positions for him to succeed. Again,
Jimmy G is really struggling. He struggled
in that Lions game. He had a wide open throw. Davante Adams beat his man.
He did.
Right. Could have brought them back. Single coverage. Jimmy G overthrows him by 5 yards.
It was bad.
Right?
It was bad.
Like first of all, when you beat your defender by 5 yards, to be overthrown by 5 yards, that's unacceptable in the NFL. He's Davante Adams. 1 catch for 11 yards, unacceptable. Unacceptable.
I totally agree with you.
And then you don't trade him.
That's what I go back to.
If you're going to lose with him, you might as well lose without him.
You should have, to me last night, that's a clear indication. If your ownership, the GM, whoever is in charge of running those decisions, that's like, I'm on the phone with everybody today. What do you want for Davante? What do you want Davante? Anything you could get.
Okay, so a problem in business, in life, in the NFL, it's one thing to make a mistake. It's a bigger thing to double down on that mistake.
Sure.
So you got rid of Derek Carr, right? One mistake. You traded a lot for Davante Adams.
Yeah.
He is no longer a fit. Move off of him. Go get a first. Go get a third. Go get a sixth. Go get as much as you can for him. Now, if you try to trade him next year, he's going to be a year older, right? His contract is, you're deeper into his contract, so you're not going to get as much for him. Plus, right, you could have taken advantage of teams looking for a push. Teams like the Cowboys, teams like the Bills, teams like the 49ers, right? You can't tell me you couldn't have gotten a first-round pick from the Bills, from the 49ers, for Davante Adams, and then some, right? Because those teams are all in, all in. So they'll go over the budget. But the Raiders made a huge mistake. They could have reset. They could have put themselves in place to go get Caleb Williams, right? To go get Drake May and set themselves up for the next decade. But to be it's either,
or just get a quarterback and then have other options to go and build around
it. Now listen, there is some talent on Vegas. Josh Jacobs, right? Jacoby Myers have been a pleasant surprise.
Sure, Davante Adams. Max Crosby is an animal.
Listen, we talked about maybe trading Max Crosby. You can't. That is the foundation of your team.
To me, it's all again, and I get what you're saying because you know me. I love pass rushers, but at the same time, to me, it's about a timeline. Does Max Crosby fit your rebuild timeline? I'm not sure exactly how old he is.
We talked about leadership. We talked about heart and soul.
Sure. You like a guy
Max
like that.
Max Crosby is a heart and soul of the team.
Sure.
If you get rid of him, that team furthermore is going to crumble because what is a Raider? Who is a Raider?
Yeah.
Right? Max Crosby, he's the foundation of the team. Davante Adams, he's a transplant. Sure. Right? You could ship him away and nobody's going to miss him.
You don't really have any other foundational impactful piece like that.
And so my problem with the general manager is that the fact that she made this mistake and she won't move off of this mistake and get rid of Davante Adams.
Sure.
Even if you get rid of him next season, you're not going to get as much for him.
No.
And if you're going to, like I said, yes, they are 3-4, if I'm not mistaken.
3-4.
3-4.
Yeah.
If I'm them, right? If I can win without him, great. If not, I want to lose and go get the first or second overall pick or be in position to move up for the second overall pick to get one of those top 2 quarterbacks to reset my franchise to compete with Patrick Mahomes.
3-5. I apologize.
3-5.
Yep.
So think about it, right? So you got Patrick Mahomes in that division. You have Russell Wilson, and you have Justin Herbert. You, as the Raiders, do not have the ability to compete on that quarterback level, right? So that's what you have to be looking for if you're the Raiders, and you're doubling down because you have one good wide receiver. That's unacceptable. You should have gotten rid of them. And with the championship teams, you would have gotten more at the trade deadline because they're pushing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, again, I guess it's just, I'm sure all these guys are calling up, having conversations, whether it was last night or today. I guess again, sometimes it just comes to compromise, and I guess not none of these guys could meet in the middle.
I think it's the fear of admitting a mistake. Yeah. Admitting that you overpaid for a guy, admitting that you got rid of his best friend, or admit that, you know what, this is going to be a losing year for you. How do you explain that to your owner? Everybody is worried about keeping their job versus continuing to win at their job. And I think that's the mistakes that GM do. And they're leading by fear. They're responding with fear instead of leading with conviction to give them their organization an ability to win.
Well, and it's funny because you hit on a few different players. We talked about Devontae, Surtain, Henry. Obviously, Young goes to 49ers. That's a major piece that moves. A team right now, first of all, I want to shout this out. Kirk Cousins, man. Best of luck to you, man. That was terrible to watch. He's having a fantastic season, arguably playing the best of any quarterback in the league.
I think we all fell in love with Kirk Cousins in the Netflix special, right?
Absolutely.
In terms as a man, as a football player, I think we were all rooting for him. And the fact that he went down with that injury, just like Aaron Rodgers, and look, they were talking about trading Kirk Cousins to the Jets, and he ended up in the same position. So, you know,
but they were actually playing well. Like all of a sudden, the Vikings were kind of figuring it out. I got to imagine it's hard for you to come in, win another game. I mean, the Vikings right now, if Kirk Cousins was still playing, they would be poised for one of those last playoff spots.
Well, so think about this.
Unless Detroit were to drastically fall off, I think Detroit is going to take that division.
So, we talked about general manager and good decisions. They got rid of Dalvin Cook. Good decision. They drafted Jordan Addison, right? You could argue that they didn't need him because you had Justin Jefferson. But, again, offensive coach, offensive team, they're like, no, we're going to double down a wide receiver. Yeah. We're going to have to pay Justin.
Weapons.
So let's get weapons. We're going to throw it
Maybe they're thinking about moving Justin, too. Who knows? I don't know.
Listen, you better not. Yeah. Now, see, that's a decision that gets you fired, right? Yeah. Like, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison.
But think what Jefferson.
T.J. Hawkinson in the middle, though, that's a trio that you could do damage with. And the running back, Madison.
Yep.
You know, he is serviceable.
Well, they also have the kid Cam Akers. He came over for the Rams now, too. So
you have a little depth, right? Well. So, again, it's a weak division. So I understand them going for it, right? They just traded for Joshua Dobbs, right? Again, you know what? Granted, he just came off the couch, right, 6 weeks ago. But you know what? He's proven in the Arizona Cardinals system that he's a leader. He can win you a couple of games. Yeah. So you can make a playoff push with them. And versus the Bears, versus Green Bay in that division, they can't compete with the Lions. But you know what? They could definitely make a nice playoff push. And so I'm rooting for the Vikings when they get Justin back. And I'm rooting for Kirk to end up in a good situation next year.
Well, so it's going to be interesting what happens with Kirk because I don't think he's coming back to Minnesota. I think Minnesota kind of made that clear that they weren't going to go and re-sign him. I think Kirk still has good football left in him.
Absolutely.
He's obviously getting older, but I mean, he's not Aaron Rodgers' age. So, I mean, I think he's still got a couple good years left in him.
I'll say this. If the 49ers don't win the Super Bowl this year, look for Kirk Cousins and the 49ers to have a short-term marriage next year.
I mean, listen, that's possible. You know the other place I thought Kirk could actually end up, and it would be great, I think, for both sides? What about Atlanta? Atlanta is waiting for that guy to go in and step in, a veteran-type present quarterback, to get the ball and distribute it and run their offense and get it to the weapons.
Okay, if I'm Kirk Cousins, I don't want to go in that system. I don't trust Arthur Smith, right? Like first of all,
they've been to a Super Bowl not too long ago.
You have Bijan Robinson, and he barely gets the ball, right? So
they're overprotecting him in my opinion.
If I'm Kirk Cousins, right? Again, football players normally play for money, right? Glory or legacy, right? And Kirk, legacy meaning championship.
Sure.
And so if he goes to the 49ers, he has a chance to put a Super Bowl under his mantle. Yeah. And so that's where I want to go if I'm a veteran. If I'm going to go through beating on my body, go through training camp, I want the opportunity to win a Super Bowl. And he could do that with the 49ers, not with Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting with Atlanta because Atlanta right now does rank as a top 10 defense and they've got weapons. So I would like to see if you put a veteran-type presence, what they could do. I'm not calling him a Super Bowl contender by any means. I get your larger point. Kirk going somewhere like San Fran, that to me is like a short-term marriage, but the goal is one thing.
Now remember this.
don't win a Super Bowl.
Kyle Shanahan and Kirk Cousins was in the Washington Commanders system way back when.
No, you're absolutely right. The other guy that I was actually surprised, but I guess because the Vikings, they couldn't have a crystal ball to know that Kirk Cousins was going to tear his Achilles in the game. Danielle Hunter, who's leading the league in sacks right now for Minnesota. I was surprised that Minnesota didn't at least try to shop him. I think he's 28 or 29 right now. But I mean, a legit, edge rusher, for another team, that could be the difference.
So in that situation, my only thought process, because the age is right, the production is there, is one of two things. The asking price was too high.
Yeah, probably.
And what you have to then weigh is, what are you going to sell him off for versus keeping him in the production he might give you. And so I think they're looking to make a playoff push, because when you look at the NFC spectrum,
as I said,
that 7th
there's a spot
seed,
wide open for
that's
them.
wide open for a team to take.
Sure.
And the Vikings have a pathway to get that 7th seed, so I think that's what they're looking to do.
So I think you and I were both, I think the biggest thing, we were both surprised by the lack of sellers and just the lack of overall movement. Like for Chase Young to be the biggest one with a lot of teams, like you mentioned the Cowboys, I think they were probably the biggest ones. I guess they think as currently constructed, they're all right. I worry about the running back position for them. I think Henry would have been a perfect fit. I don't know if Pollard can hold up / be a true number one back for the duration of a
You talk about Tony Pollard. Last year, he was averaging 6.5 yards per carry with Zeke. This year, as the second guy. This year, he's averaging 3.2 yards per carry as the number one guy.
Yeah, and he only had 12 carries the other day in the game. So it's just like, can this guy carry the load? I
don't believe so.
And I don't like putting the game, and again, this is not like a jump on Dak thing, but I don't like, if you don't have that bell cow type back, or at least, or two of them that can go get you 20 to 30 touches between the two, I don't like that recipe long term for the Cowboys.
I do want to give some credit to my New York Giants, right? They traded Leonard Williams.
Got a second round pick and
got a second and a fifth, right? Now
the fifth's a year after, right?
A year after. They did pay his remaining salary, but I think that's great value.
That's why they got the second round pick.
Listen, that's roughly what they traded to the Jets for him.
Sure.
So essentially, they got his services, shipped him away before he's 30, which is the right decision to make. Now, I wish they got rid of Adoree Jackson, right, and hopefully got a 3rd or a 4th round pick for him. That didn't happen, but I like the value play, because if the Giants don't make a playoff run, then at least now we have a 1st, 2 seconds, right? We have a 5th the following year, so we can bring in some younger talent within the team.
You got to collect assets, right? And you know what? Speaking of collecting assets / major trades, we got to make the switch and focus to the NBA. Holy cow.
James Harden.
That James Harden trade. So I'm out of time. First of all, let me get a little side note on this if I can. Guy like James Harden, all right? It is I think James Harden is the perfect example in parenting, okay? What to and what not to do. When your kid yells and screams and spills milk here, or he makes an accident here or there, or he screams until he gets what he wants, the answer in getting the best out of your kid is not to just let them get their way. It's actually at some point to put your foot down and say no. But I guess nobody's going to do that. James Harden gets his way.
Slow down. I disagree.
All I'm going to say is I can't wait to watch this blow up in the Clippers.
Well, listen, slow down. I got to disagree, right? Because in business, sometimes you fail upwards. Because if you can't fire someone, right, you're going to have to promote them. And so here's a situation, right, where they're sending James Harden to the Clippers, right, and it's going to yield the 76ers a bigger benefit, not from what they're going to receive, right, but this is addition by subtraction. Here's why. Tyrese Maxey will be an all-star.
Oh, he's already being a stud right now.
The 3 games that he's played so far has been amazing.
Yeah, he looks like a stud.
So here's the situation. You're sending James Harden to the Clippers, and you, the 76ers, will be a better organization, will be a better basketball team.
They already look better
right now. There'll be better chemistry. And, again, they're thinking bigger. All the players they got back are on expiring contracts. Next year, they're going to have $50 million in cap space, right, to go after another superstar to pair with Joel Embiid and the future all-star in Tyrese Maxey. So you're saying don't give him his way. I argue, send him to the Clippers, get everything you're getting back, and make sure it can benefit you. And that benefit, $50 million in free salary cap next year, Tyrese Maxey, a future all-star, and you get veterans for a playoff push. That is a good decision for the 76ers.
But on the other side, so I should have clarified myself. It's a good decision for the 76ers. I think it's a horrible decision for the Clippers, and I can't wait until a year from now when this team doesn't work out and they don't win an NBA title, and James Harden is asking for another trade again.
Listen, on the Clippers side now,
You also basically now have reduced Russell Westbrook to where the only way that team works is if Westbrook comes off the bench and runs a second unit.
That piece of it, I agree. So from the chemistry standpoint, on the Clippers standpoint, I need to see that get done. If I'm running, first of all, let me say this: I believe in Ty Lue. Right,
I like Ty Lue.
He's a hell of a coach, and if there's a coach that can figure it out, I think Ty Lue is that man. Right, so what I want to see, if I'm him, what I would do is that first of all, during the regular season, I would have James Harden run the point. Right.
Which is what's going to happen.
Right, which is going to happen. I would, obviously, you're going to start Russell Westbrook, but then to me, you sit him down early and let him run the second unit, like you mentioned. But then when it's time for the playoffs, right, it flips. I think you use PG, right, as the point guard. You put James Harden as the wing, right, so that he could be more of a spot-up three-point shooter. You run the pick and roll with Kawhi Leonard.
Sure.
Or you put Westbrook at the point, right, and let him run the show with his speed, his aggression, and his passion. That's sort of what I would do in the playoff. But all I know from a playoff standpoint, I can't trust James Harden to be the man, but can he be the third guy? That I still think he has the talent to do.
Well, so here's all I'm going to say about this. And again, because I would like to give a couple other teams some shout-outs just for the first early games. But looking at the Clippers, there's something that just perplexes me. And I sent this I sent this text in a NBA chat of mine with a bunch of my good friends. I want to know why. I'm a huge LeBron fan. You know that. I've been very outspoken about it. I'm not the biggest. I think KD is like kind of strange personality-wise, but I'm a fan of his game as a basketball player.
You better be.
The dude's an assassin.
We would have a problem. I mean,
my issue though is LeBron and KD got killed for the whole super team thing. All Kawhi Leonard has done since going to the Clippers is try to put up different iterations of super teams that have been nothing but disappointments. And yet, nothing. I don't hear anything from like the talking heads or media across the board about how why isn't he held to the same standard?
Well, okay, listen. So I'm going to shift it from Kawhi Leonard to the Clippers organization.
Okay.
They've always been the little brother to the Lakers. Now they're going to have their own arena. It's California. It's LA. You have stars. You need stars to bring in stars. So ultimately, from a pure marketing standpoint, right, the Clippers are now relevant and interesting. If they all stay healthy, right? If they go into the playoffs and James Harden is healthy,
that team should win an NBA title. They should.
Let's say this: they'll make the Western Conference Finals. I will say it that way.
What team has a more talented starting five though in the West than that team on paper?
Listen, the best ability is availability.
That's very true.
Let's see who shows up in the playoffs to play. If you can answer that question, then I agree with you. If they're all healthy, then they're going to match up great against the Warriors, right? They can match up extremely well with the Clippers. If I'm not mistaken, the Lakers have not beaten the Clippers in
14 or 15 straight games,
right?
Yeah,
so
they're playing Wednesday night too.
So we're going to see if that continues.
Yep. I think LA's 2-1 or 2-2.
And here's the thing: separately, right? Let's take a moment and give the Denver Nuggets some credit. Listen, I apologize.
Ballin'.
Jokic, right? He doesn't need to touch a basketball the whole summer, and he's a walking triple-double.
Basketball's his second gig. You didn't know that? It's just a side job.
Man, he's got game. He's at another level. I think, listen, after he won the chip, I gave him the additional respect. What he's doing...
Jamal Murray's playing really well.
I've always loved Jamal Murray. But what Yoke is doing in 3 quick games has been absolutely amazing. I think the Denver Nuggets are for real. And guess what? It's gonna have to go through Denver, right? So the Clippers is doing all of this just to keep up. Not only to be relevant from a marketing standpoint, but just to barely compete with the Nuggets, right? Who is the class of the Western Conference?
Absolutely. And listen, the NBA season right now is off to a great start right now. The Celtics are streaking. They might have the talent. They might have the most talented 6 players in the league. Bench could be a little bit of an issue, but Bucks are kind of still figuring it out. But they're 2-1.
There are some chemistry issues. I definitely... I don't think Giannis knows how to incorporate Dame yet. Obviously, I think the offense should run.
I think they're
through
just
Dame.
trying to figure out exactly.
Listen,
that's what they're trying to figure out.
If it's just a Dame and Giannis pick and roll, that's going to be amazing. Middleton has to show up consistently.
Yeah,
right now,
he's
it
hurt.
looks like he's not going to play back-to-back games. So
you need him for the postseason.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think they're thinking long-term, but they got to get the chemistry right. When they do, they're going to be dangerous, man.
I think the Warriors are also going to be really good.
Mature
The
team.
more CP3 and Draymond get to play, the better off they're going to be defensively.
100%,
And you have
100%.
multiple floor orchestrators.
Hey, I'm a Warriors fan. I love it. CP3, he's a baller. He's going to figure it out. He's a true general, and the Warriors are going to be fun.
The Knicks got to just figure out their thing with their lineups, and then obviously the Lakers. We could talk about them more in the second segment. But that's all the time we have for this segment, guys. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this quick break. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Run It Back. This is segment 2. Couple of topics that we still wanted to kind of touch on. We were just kind of
talking about the Knicks, right?
Talking about the Knicks, and so they're 1-2 right now. If you watch that opening game against Boston, I mean, it's almost like classic New York sports teams right now. Like, they're winning the game, and then they just kind of found a way to give it away late. Yeah. But I like that. They're going and they're playing competitive. They beat the Hawks. So that was a nice little win for them. They lost to the Pelicans. Yeah, they lost to the Pelicans. They had a little bit of a lackluster night. It's early. I think they're still trying to figure some things out with this team. But I do think the Knicks, just watching that game against the Celtics, as they get their mojo together, they get their defense, I think they're going to be
They should be a top 5, top right there between 4 and 5.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what happens with the 76ers. Like I said, I think
the Knicks make a move too this year.
That's what I would love to see.
They have a ton of draft capital.
That's what I would love to see to take themselves to the next level.
Yeah.
But so as of now,
asked for a trade, is it?
Right.
So.
But as of now, I'm gonna give the respect to the 76ers.
Sure.
Right. They brought in a lot of veterans. Let's see what that chemistry is like. Let's see what happens. Right. With Tyrese Maxey. The Knicks, they have to build their offensive chemistry. So
sure.
But they're gonna be right there.
Yeah.
Right. It's gonna be the Knicks. It's gonna be the Cavs. It's gonna be Atlanta. It's gonna be the Heat.
Yeah.
Some combination of those teams are gonna be 4 and 5, 4, 5, 6. And they definitely look like a playoff team again.
Yeah, no question. You know one thing about a Tom Thibodeau coach team, that they're going to play hard, and there's going to be an emphasis on grinding it out on the defensive end. I like them. The Lakers are 2-2 right now. So I'll tell you honestly what I see with the Lakers, just a little bit that I've watched. I think people are always going to put it on AD because they want him to kind of be like Superman. But if you just look at his averages right now, averaging 26 points per game on efficient shooting. He's averaging 14 rebounds, which is good for third. 2.8 blocks, third in the league. So it's like he's scoring at an efficient level. He's rebounding. He's getting blocks, too, as well. He's essentially the anchor of your defense. I don't think AD is the problem. If you want my honest opinion right now, watching the Lakers play, point of attack defense, they have no way to stop people from penetrating, and they can't defend the pick and rolls out on the perimeter. It's forcing AD or whatever big is on the court to come out, and all these teams now are getting second chance opportunities on the Lakers. So their defense is just a problem right now. LeBron is LeBron, right?
Rule number 76. Play like a champion, no excuses.
No excuses, play like a champion.
Listen, AD's numbers sound nice.
Sure.
But from the leadership standpoint, from the carrying the mantle of the team and being an enforcer, I still think that is missing. Right? And so I want to still see more from AD because at the end of the day, at the end of the game, it's still LeBron James. Right? Now, it could be LeBron during the playoffs, but throughout the regular season, AD's got to be the man.
Sure.
When is AD going to be in that MVP conversation? Right? Again, you got Jokic, you got Embiid, you got Giannis. There's no reason why AD should be in that conversation when he's there, right? And then pushing the Lakers to have a top 3 record in the West, then AD will have done his job.
Yeah, so I mean, listen, we'll see. I just don't think he's the crux of their issues. And I was saying to you guys during the break, the Lakers is currently constructed. I think they're going to have to make some type of a move up front. They're going to have to get something in their front court because they have to be able to defend better. You had mentioned, again, they're all going in the 3-and-D type guys. Yeah. A guy, honestly, who they had on their team a while ago, and it'll depend what happens with Chicago this year, but I think is a perfect fit, Alex Caruso. And I do think the Lakers do have the pieces to go and make a move like that if they wanted to before.
Well, listen, again, D'Angelo Russell, he's a liability on defense, right?
They can play him right off the court. He can't play against the Nuggets.
But listen, he is perfect during the regular season to get you buckets. But I think at the trade deadline, he's a great asset to flip for a more veteran player.
It'll be D'Lo and Rui or some combination of players, something like that. I also think Darvin Ham just needs to, you need to kind of settle on a couple more rotations. Christian Wood is actually playing really well.
That'll give
when him and LeBron and AD are on the floor together, they're positive in efficiency both on offense and defense. It's working. He's the good type of fit for them because of the spacing. If they can figure out the front court, they can figure that out and get a shooter, someone who also spaces the floor, and then just someone who can guard.
Again,
honestly.
Austin Reeves has to step up. He got the bag.
He does. He's not playing well right now.
He's got to show that he wasn't a one-year wonder. One-hit wonder.
I'm with you. So, listen, that kind of recaps. The big thing I can see with the NBA right now is the Nuggets are the team to beat. That is the team to beat right now.
Basketball is back. We got trades.
Is back.
We got, chemistry building on the Bucks and the Celtics. So it's just exciting. It's a wait and see what in the world is going to happen with the Clippers. So there's a lot to happen.
Yeah, the Clippers are going to be exciting too. And then again, my team to watch. Watch out for those OKC Thunder. 3-1 right now. My man Shai Gilgeous-Alexander killing it.
Can't argue.
My boy Lou Dort, man, he just out there guarding whoever needs to be guarded. But I digress. Before we get into, guys, we gave you, after the first 4 games, we gave you that first quarter report. Today is the second quarter / first half report. But before I get there, got to talk about this crazy boxing match that happened.
Oh, yeah. Tyson.
This was a real boxing match, not to show any, not to throw any shade here at those Paul brothers over here, but this was a guy who never actually boxed in his life, who went up against no way. An actual boxer. And not just any boxer. One Francis...
You feel passionate about this?
I feel a little bit passionate. Okay. My students will tell you quite a bit how I feel about this whole Paul thing. No disrespect to guys who figure out a way to make money, but I challenge anybody to show me the contracts on those and show me the people that aren't taking dives for them. But I digress. All right? Francis Ngannou, okay?
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Hey, listen, if
I'll throw that out there.
I'm just going to say it right now. Okay, I'm not afraid. If any one of them wants to come see me,
hey, your Instagram account has already been shut down, all right? So make sure you say allegedly, all right? We want you in those comments, guys.
If
allegedly, let's throw that out there.
If a Paul brother hits me up, then we're doing something right. Francis Ngannou, formerly of the UFC, he actually left as the champ. There was negotiation problems. He wanted bigger purses, more money, yada, yada, yada. So he, after actually suffering a major knee injury too, he wins his last fight. He has to go through a major surgery, but he signs with an organization called the PFL. Now, the big fight that everybody wanted to see in the UFC was him against John Jones. Don't know if that will ever happen now. John Jones actually... heart goes out to him. He tore his pec. He was actually getting ready for a fight against Stipe Miocic. Apparently, he might be out for the next year. So, we'll see what happens with him. Yeah. But Francis signs over with the PFL. There was talks about trying to put together some mega fight between those two. Fast forward, Francis decides, you know what? I'm going to go negotiate, and I'm going to go throw my hat in the prize ring. I'm going to fight Tyson Fury, the undefeated world heavyweight boxing champion of the world. Now, I can be the first one to tell you, I'm much more of an MMA guy now than I was a boxing fan. But I was a boxing fan once upon a time. Okay. Love me a good old boxing. The sweet science, they call it.
So wait, can I just ask this question?
Sure.
Robbery? Was it robbery?
Listen, it's tough because
people want to know.
It's tough because all the guys that watch MMA now, if that was an MMA fight, Francis Ngannou all the way. But I've watched boxing long enough, and I watched it back 2 times. Okay. Now, I will say this. Francis Ngannou had the one, if not 2, most significance in the fight. People who watched the fight, go back and watch. I think it was either the 7th and the 8th round. I think Shawnee in production saw this too. There was a point. Francis got another nice little uppercut on him. And you see Tyson Fury goes to grab him, but as he grabs him, he falls. And I'm sitting there going, that was another knockdown. Tyson Fury did a great job of covering it up. But that was a knockdown. He got dropped again. But
Tyson won the scorecard.
Tyson
He delivered the most amount of punches.
He landed more punches, and in the game, that's what boxing is. Knockdowns only give you so much. Now, if you keep getting knockdowns over the course of rounds, then obviously you're winning. I tabbed the fight as total. If you're going by total strikes, landed 6-4 in favor of Tyson Fury. I remember watching it back twice. But let's just go back through that again.
Do you agree with the robbery?
I don't think it was a robbery by the boxing standard. I think boxing's got a problem, though. It's just... if you have enough people, perception is reality, right? So if you have enough people sitting there saying, that was a robbery, I think Francis won. Well, what does that say about your sport, right? Great, you landed more punches, but guess what? Francis Ngannou was the one dancing in round 3 in front of Mr., as he referred to him, you are a bad teacher. Because he has that deep accent from where he comes. He comes from Cameroon, actually. Francis Ngannou, I actually encourage anybody, if you haven't read about him, phenomenal upbringing and story. Like what he's come through throughout his life. The man is an absolute freak. And all the stars are there. You had Ronaldo there. I think Ray Lewis was in the building. Eminem came to watch the fight. The fact that you had a guy who's never fought a professional boxing match in his life go up against the pound-for-pound best boxer right now currently in boxing, undefeated heavyweight champ, and he dropped him once, you can really argue twice, but dropped him clean. And you should have seen the look on Tyson Fury's face. Tyson Fury was like, that's power I've never felt before. This guy's been in the ring 3 times with Deontay Wilder, who people refer to his right hand as the eraser. Francis Ngannou, to me, is already just a champ and a winner in life. It was a phenomenal match. I did not expect it to be as close as it was. Francis Ngannou is the champ in my book, man. That's the baddest man.
Listen, I'm not going to argue too much about that. Again, you can make the argument from a technical standpoint, right? You know, Tyson landed more punches.
Sure.
From a scorecard standpoint, winning 6-4, he should have won that fight.
Sure.
But when you lay down some damage on your opponent, that's what people remember, and that's what people take away.
Well, it becomes the big thing with a fight, too. Like, what is it about? Is it about takedowns, or in this case, boxing, more strikes landed? Or is it about who had the most significant damage or moments in a fight, okay? And that's, I think, the one difference between MMA and boxing, which is why I think MMA now is on the rise and the more popular sport. Because people see it as, one, a more complete take on a fight, because you have grappling, you have wrestling, you have striking. It all gets thrown into one, and then we get to see who's the best at putting it all together.
Listen, I'll say this. I think boxing is about stars, and we're just
100%.
We're just looking for those stars to come back.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
So we'll see. But listen, where's the first half report?
Whoa.
Where's the first half report?
The first half report.
The people want to know.
Let's do it right now. Okay. So, guys, we're 8 games through the NFL season, with the exception of a couple of teams that had buys.
Do you need to change your Super Bowl pick? Right? Do you want to? This is an opportunity for you to renege.
Well, hold on a second. You just put your hand in the tiger's cage. You know what happens when you put your hand in the tiger's cage, right? You get bit.
I think this vest is a little too tight to be a tiger's cage. All right? Okay, Swifty?
No more Swifty. I'm sorry, guys. If you couldn't tell on that first block, that wig was killing me. But
go back.
The things we do for love. All right. No, listen.
You really sound like Taylor Swift.
I guess I just got to shake that one off.
Oh my God! I didn't do it.
Can you stop it though, man? We don't need any more bad blood. All right. Come on.
Oh my God!
Saw what I did there, but I'm done.
Yeah, that's my line. All right, that's my line. Yeah,
but
continue.
On a serious note, so the first thing is, and again, we've now unanimously agreed again, I believe, on our studs of the first half.
Listen,
we said offense and defense.
Some things are undeniable. You want to talk about defense, and I go offense, or
why not? So again, for me, stud of the half, defensively, has to be Myles Garrett. I mean, we were singing his praises all last week. He's now at 8.5 sacks, which is good for tied for, I believe, second in the league, leading one of the best defenses. I mean, the Browns are running out P.J. Walker and again, that's no disrespect to P.J. Walker. He's a professional player in the league. But again, you're running that guy out. You wouldn't expect them to have the record that they have right now, which I believe they're 4-3 or 4-4. I know I have the record somewhere off
I can tell you right now.
To the sides. But the
Browns are 4-3.
They're 4-3 again. So they just had they're 4-2 coming into that game with the Seahawks, and they were winning the game with about 30-something seconds left to go.
Yeah.
Without Myles Garrett on that team, I don't think that defense is producing the way it is. And again, we saw it last week. His effort led to literally the victory for them. He scored 10 points almost himself just on plays he created. So I'm Myles Garrett all the way. I'm loving what I'm seeing.
Yeah, listen, look, love Myles Garrett. Wish the Browns were doing a little bit more. Again, what in the world is going on with Deshaun Watson?
Sure.
Again, if Myles Garrett doesn't have a superstar game, what's going on with that secondary?
Sure.
We can, talk about some other things, but from an individual standpoint, Myles Garrett has been a stud, so I 100% agree with you. I think there's no denying there.
Sure.
Right? Yes, like honorable mention to, Danielle Hunter.
Sure.
J.J. Watt. T.J. Watt, all those other players. But offensively, same thing, undeniable. You have to give it to Tyreek Hill. He said he wanted 2,000 yards, and he's pacing for 2,400.
Yep.
Right? So that's absolutely amazing. And from a standpoint,
they weren't even sure if he was going to play this week, and then he just goes out and does what he does.
You can't guard him one-on-one, right? You just can't guard him one-on-one.
Sure.
You got to double him. You got to have a man over the top.
Yeah.
But to have almost 1,100 yards, through 8 games, that's phenomenal. The fact that he's living up to what he put out there in the universe is absolutely amazing. So he's my first half stud. He's your first half stud on the offensive side. And I think, listen, he's undeniable. Like, again, honorable mention, right? Tua,
sure.
Right? Listen, surprise, Puka Nacua, right? Other things like that.
CMC, Christian McCaffrey,
A.J. Brown,
Lamar
right?
Jackson's another one. I mean, Lamar Jackson could be in the discussion. I will say, right? Lamar's playing great right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. But Tyreek doing something special. And listen, I know the MVP is a quarterback award, but Tyreek, he deserves some serious consideration.
Well, that's the thing, too, about this year is, again, while I think Lamar has played well, I don't think any quarterback right now is like really, truly separating himself from the pack. I think defense is having somewhat of a renaissance this year. They really frustrated a lot of the quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. This is like one of those years where I feel like if you were ever going to have an MVP not be a quarterback, I feel like this year right now could actually be the year.
Again, Christian, Tyreek, A.J. Brown, right? Heck, you can go defensively, right? And Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, T.J. Watt. Yeah. Listen, yes, it's a quarterback award, but like acknowledge the players that are doing something special in the game.
And what would their teams be if they weren't there?
Exactly. You take away Tyreek Hill, that team is barely 500.
Yeah, that's exactly what we said during the meeting. We were talking about, I guess the conversation has come up on a few sports platforms or channels today. Who's a better receiver, A.J. Brown or Tyreek Hill? And to me, the one reason I would say Tyreek Hill is I think you could take A.J. Brown off the Eagles, and I think the Eagles would still be good because they have a phenomenal run game, one of the best O-lines, they have other weapons, and they have a good quarterback in terms of running and just moving the chains. You take Tyreek Hill off the Dolphins, you and I agree with this. 500 team.
Now listen, where I will give AJ Brown a ton of credit.
It's a big boy.
Right? Oh my God, speed and power, right? Yeah. And listen, in football, speed kills, right? And that's Tyreek Hill. But when you have adequate speed and power, that's just an elite combination.
Sure.
And you see the chemistry with with Jalen Hurts. AJ Brown has done it also with the Titans.
That's fair.
So listen, I can't argue that A.J. Brown is the complete opposite version of Tyreek Hill and deserves to be up there because his physical frame, again,
sure,
he's a little bit like Chase, right? He's always open, and when he's not open, he's still open, right?
Yeah.
So you got to give A.J. Brown a lot of credit that way. So listen, pound for pound, I don't think you can go wrong, but depending on what your scheme is like, and again, here's the thing. Sometimes Tyreek Hill leaves has the other wide receivers open, right? Because you're so focused on Tyreek Hill that it gives the other guys opportunity. A.J. Brown, even if you double him, guess what? He can still go over the top, right? So I like that a little bit more in big moments, right? I think A.J. Brown is going to show up, even though, listen, I'm not throwing no shade against Tyreek Hill. You can see what he did in the Super Bowl with the Chiefs, right? Just phenomenal athlete. He's turned the Dolphins around. So, but A.J. Brown, man, that's a combination of speed and power that I don't think most teams want to see.
Yeah.
And, right, the GM that traded him, guess what? He got fired. Yeah. Because guess what? That was the wrong move.
Sure. Well, again, I guess the only thing I would say the difference between the two, and again, we're kind of, we're mincing parts here. I mean, if I had either one on my team, I wouldn't be disappointed. I think a defensive coordinator, they come in immediately and they play the Dolphins and go, okay, we got to get eyes on Tyreek Hill, who's to stop. I'm not saying D coordinators don't do that to the Eagles, but what I'm saying is there any way, we have to go and stop this run game? And I think a byproduct of that, too, is loaded box equals more times than not, A.J. Brown gets these one-on-one matchups against smaller
defenders. All I'm
going
to say is, 5 consecutive games with 125 yards or more. And sometimes when you just talk about one receiver like a Tyreek Hill, you got the Chase of the world. You got the A.J. Brown of the world. Like, hey, I'm here too. Look at what I'm doing. And again, you brought up your Bengals. Let's see what happens with Chase, these next few games, right, with the healthy Joe Burrow. That's what I'm going to say. So,
I'm probably going to make a stop on 7-Eleven on the way home. It's a little late. I'm going to be hungry. They're always open, right? Sure were this weekend, huh? Yeah, we're going to get those Super Bowl picks in. But I digress. Don't want to move too far ahead.
So who's your biggest surprise when it comes to the first half of the season?
It's a good question. I would say to this point, just because they are still technically relevant, and I said I thought they would be the surprise team. The Atlanta Falcons have been my biggest surprise. Now, here's what I'm going to say about them. I think now they're starting to hit a little bit more of the reality of realizing the limitations of a guy like Desmond Ridder. Does not really distribute the ball well to the weapons that they clearly do have on that team. I mean, Jonnu Smith is actually having a pretty good year for them too as well. But Pitts is young and a stud. Drake London could be a stud. Bijan Robinson, I mean, you know me. Texas Longhorns, the guy is big. Get him the ball more. Again, maybe that's some of the offensive coordinator too. You had talked about that earlier when I had mentioned what about a guy like Kirk Cousins going there. But a top 10 overall defense still, okay? Even despite what happened yesterday in yards, they have surprised me. And I think they have the pieces around. You just need to figure it out at the quarterback position and keep adding to that defense. If they can make a move for a quarterback and get some defenders, that's my surprise team, the Falcons.
So, this is not bad, right? My surprise team, the Seattle Seahawks. Right?
Leading the division right now.
They're 5-2.
Yeah.
Right? They've clearly been a surprise with this record. I think everyone was wondering, would Geno Smith come back, have another good year? And look at the after effect of trading Russell Wilson, right? That offensive line is looking good and getting healthy.
Two young quarterbacks.
Really good running backs.
Yeah, and running backs.
Cornerbacks look... So
Weatherspoon and Woolen, right?
Oh, Weatherspoon, he's a hitter, man.
He's, he can do a little bit of everything.
Oh my, he's a cornerback, right? But he's
love corners who like to hit.
Cam Chancellor, he's got that vibe, but in a cornerback's body.
Yeah, a little smaller, but yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So, but no, definitely my surprise team. If there was an honorable mention, I would go with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Okay.
Here's why. If you take the Chiefs out of their schedule,
their record is...
They're like 12-1.
I know, their record's phenomenal. Since whatever date last year.
Yeah, since like November of last year. So almost for a full year, the games that they primarily lost have been to the Chiefs. Yeah,
right? They just keep winning games.
So now, again, it's sometimes it's ugly, right? But that defense is solid. ETN, right? He's showing that he's a true NFL running back. And an elite threat, 3-down back. So, listen, honorable mention to the Jacksonville Jaguars. My surprise.
All right, let me kick this one back to you then. Most disappointing team this year?
Ooh. Listen, I would have to go with the New England Patriots, right?
Okay.
I would have to go with the New England Patriots, right? I think, how they've looked have been so disappointing. There's no offensive talent, right? Mac Jones has clearly regressed. We're questioning the ability of Bill Belichick, right? At least some people out there. Listen, I think he's a great football mind.
Yeah. But as a game, someone kind of passed him by.
So here's what's interesting that I never understand. If you're a great defensive coordinator, you have to understand offense. Because if you can stop it, that means you know how it works. If you know how it works, then you should be able to execute it. And it doesn't seem like Bill has that ability. So it's sort of like he has the counter, but he doesn't know the main move.
Yeah.
And so just highly disappointed because just you expect more from the New England Patriots. And,
I hear you.
They've been a disaster.
So my honorable mention is going to be the LA Chargers, okay? Because I think... the reason I'm saying honorable mention is because I think right now the schedule sets up a little bit more favorable for them to make a run. I think they'll find a way to make it to the playoffs. But the way they started, like at 2-4, I'm like, with the talent you have, like you should just be better. And I also think some of his coaching. But my disappointment, it's our home team. It's the New York Giants. And coming off of that game this weekend, it was the first time this year I was texting all my buddies in my Giants chat, and I go, wow, the end of this game right here actually just almost broke me. Like you might not hear a text from me about the Giants the rest of the year because they had so many opportunities to just go and close that game out and just not even give the Jets a chance, and they just kept letting them in, kept leaving them in the doorway. And here's my thing: this is no disrespect to the Jets offense or Zach Wilson. 35 seconds left. They're inside their own 30-yard line, and you let them get into field goal range with one. To me, it's just like it's inexcusable. And there were moments before they could have done it, but just the Giants in general, coming off the season that they had last year. Now I get it. There's a regression to the mean factor here too as well. Because I think they might have outkicked their coverage last year. They played better than what their talent actually was. Combine the tougher schedule for them this year. You thought maybe bringing in some pieces they'd be better. But I've just been nothing but disappointed so far with the Giants.
Listen, look, that game was very disappointing. And listen, I'm not going to make excuses, but what I will just point out is that Giants defense was on the field a tremendous amount of time.
They were.
Right? And so with 35 seconds left.
They threw for -9 passing yards.
And so when you
Why
think
even
about
count
it,
that? That's not a real number.
So when you think about it, in those 35 seconds, right, they were worn down to some degree.
Sure.
And from, again, they talk about the best defense is a good offense.
Yeah.
And when you can't throw the ball, right, not even for a first down, and first of all, what's going on with our field goal kicker, right? You can't.
Maybe some of that was the weather. Yes, the weather was crappy.
I mean, listen, he's been crappy all season, so it can't just be that game. So again, look, no excuses. They lost. It was terrible, but again, offensively, they have to do better. Our offense is continuing to go through Saquon, and that is not enough. Right?
Yeah.
And so that's my concern. I am not tremendously surprised at this record simply because we are lacking the offensive talent. I told you how I felt about Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
It's terrible that Tyrod went down. Think about this. Daniel Jones was cleared to play at like 8 a.m. that morning, and he didn't suit up, right? I think they wanted to see Tyrod. Tyrod had them in position.
He's hurt.
Listen, he had them in position to win.
I know.
Right? Like you can't tell me if Daniel Jones was playing that game, they would have had a better opportunity to win, right? So ultimately, yes, he would have been better than the backup. What's it called? DeVito,
Don Bosco boy,
right? But ultimately, I'm not tremendously surprised what's happening right now.
Yeah, it's just it's been disappointing for me. Obviously, I'm an avid Giants fan, and it's tough.
I wish they got rid of Adoree Jackson, right, to further build.
Well, now you have to start looking for them to pivot and what's next now.
I hope so, but listen, Daniel Jones will have an opportunity to start this Sunday, and let's see what he does.
What about best team?
The best team? Ooh, really good. Let me take a quick little peek.
Sure.
Right at the list. Listen, I think ultimately I'm going to give it to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay.
Right? Because they've won ugly. Again, I talked about A.J. Brown. He's doing something special right now. Again, great offensive line, great defensive line. Howie Roseman, you just trust him in the decisions that he's making.
Sure.
Right? So I have to give it to the Philadelphia Eagles because they're 7-1. What I will say, if I have to throw an honorable mention, even though it hasn't been pretty, even though they've been blown out, the Miami Dolphins are leading their division.
Sure.
They only are 6-2.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Ramsey just came back. Look for Xavier Howard to come back.
Need a big win.
Right? They do.
They
need
might
a
have
big,
an opportunity
but here's the thing.
Sunday.
All I'm saying is
Playing the Chiefs in
they're
Germany.
getting healthy.
Yeah.
That defense is getting healthy. And if that offense can continue with that defense stepping up, man, they might be the pick in the second half. But we'll see.
Huge game for them Sunday against the Chiefs. They're
Agreed.
playing them in Germany. I might surprise you with this a little bit. While I do think the Eagles, they have the best record, so that usually goes to the best team, might surprise you. Now, again, I'm not saying this is the team I think is going to win the Super Bowl, but I think it's the best team right now. I think the Baltimore Ravens right now. I think the Baltimore Ravens are the best team. And I'll tell you my reasoning.
Be more.
To me, they play in a tougher division than the Eagles do right now. So they played a tougher schedule overall. And they just mollywopped the Detroit Lions, who are no joke in the NFC. Mm-hmm. So all I'm saying is I think their strength of schedule, their record, combined with their offensive and defensive prowess, top 5 in all major statistical categories on both. Okay? I like the Baltimore Ravens right now.
Listen, I'm not going to argue with that. They're my Super Bowl pick, right, versus the 49ers. And listen, I'm staying strong with my pick. I think it's going to be the Ravens, and I think it's going to be the 49ers. Look for the 49ers to step up the second half. They just added Chase.
So you're sticking with your pre-Super Bowl pick?
I'm sticking with my pick. You know why? It's looking good.
It's looking good.
And those 49ers will get right.
All right. Listen, I agree with you.
You want to renege? I give you this opportunity.
Not only do I not want to renege, but I'm so happy you gave me the floor here with these closing moments because I do like the 49ers to rebound and get back. But all I'm saying is don't get too close to that tiger cage because last I checked, a raven, it's a scary, kind of daunting animal. but it is not a tiger. Watch out for the Cincinnati Bengals because they showed you why on this past Sunday's game. That is not a team that you want to see in the playoffs. I love where the Bengals are trending right now, and I'll throw a little surprise at you. Cincinnati is my most dangerous team for the second half of the NFL season. That's what I'm liking.
All I'm going to say is they play in the same division.
They do.
And we're going to see who is right.
We will.
And listen, Lamar...
Maybe you win the division, but the Bengals might win the war.
Lamar, MVP candidate. Lamar having his best season. Lamar has showed up, right, after getting the contract. If they win that division and it's got to go through B more, listen, the Bengals can't do it.
Yeah, we'll see.
All your tigers and scratching and caging and all that don't mean nothing if it's got to go through Baltimore.
Listen, you know Joey Cool Burrow. He'll go to Arrowhead. He'll go to Baltimore. He'll go wherever he needs to, and he will go duel with the best quarterbacks in the league. He's already done it. He's done it in enemy territory.
If he goes to Baltimore in the playoffs and he gets punched in the mouth, he might just feel a little differently.
Yeah, you punch a tiger in the mouth, though. That could be dangerous, man. Listen, that is all.
You better take the episode to segment 3. Take it to segment 3.
All it is, we're going to end segment 2 with a roar, okay?
Oh,
and we'll be right
God.
back after this quick break. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. It is the final segment, third segment of Run It Back. Just remember, episode 10. And I'd be remiss not to remind you guys, please like, comment, and subscribe. I especially like the comments, too. I will go on there and interact with you myself. I enjoy it so much. That's why we do this. We want the feedback on all these different
all I'm going
topics.
to say is appreciate the love. Continue to show us the love. Be in those comments. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So listen. Before we get into, we're going to do it a little bit different this week because we didn't talk about games on the front end. We're going to talk about some notable games this weekend, okay, before we get into stud of the week and some quick picks.
Sure.
So, the game, obviously that it, got me very excited. Listen, this is a message actually, too, to my godson, okay? Because my godson now watches the podcast.
Okay.
A couple of weeks ago, he was just like, hey, Uncle Shane, how about those Bengals and Joey Cool Burrow? Yeah, no MVP for them. Well, guess what? After they boat raced the Niners the other day, I texted his father and I said, hey, tell little Dominic over there, how about them Bengals now? Stay tuned for the podcast. But listen, everybody, I was even a little nervous at the beginning of the season too, because I thought Burrow shouldn't have been playing. He just didn't look right.
Agreed.
And I thought about multiple times, I'm like, maybe the Bengals really should just pack it in. Joe Burrow just doesn't look right. But I guess they had a plan. And if you pay attention to the Bengals, anything through the last couple of seasons, they've started off the last couple of seasons very similar. Slow starts, okay? They might be 0-1 or 1-2, something like that. But Joe Burrow he's not a Lamar, he's not a Mahomes, and he's not an Allen in that. His game is, and I'm not saying he's not a good athlete. He is a good athlete. He's not their level of athlete, where those guys kind of just walk on, and they're just like in rhythm. Like they just do what they do, they play. Joe Burrow is a guy that really thrives on timing. He needs to get into rhythm with his offense, his players. He needs to play a couple of games. In some ways, that actually kind of reminds me of Peyton Manning. He's a little bit more athletic than Peyton, but in terms of like that rhythm. Peyton Manning was a big rhythm guy. Burrow's the same way, and the Bengals kind of feed off that. And just like the last couple of years, they've gotten it right. They got healthy through the bye week, and oh my God, all I'm going to say is everybody's trying to go down on San Fran. You and I both have been very high on San Fran, and I still think San Fran is going to make the Super Bowl. As a matter of fact, they were my pick right across from the Cincinnati Bengals. You can't tell me watching that game that the Cincinnati Bengals are a team that you are going to want to play in the second half.
Well, listen, let me say this, right? Practice matters.
Sure.
Right? So I'm going to talk about practice for a second. And clearly, Joe Burrow...
Well, almost 2 weeks.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. To get that rhythm, right, practice, with
no preseasons the last couple of years. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Right? Camp just hasn't been the same, right, for him the last 2 seasons. So I think that's a reason for his slow start. So if I'm the Bengals, I would manage the camp and the preseason games a little differently with Joe Burrow if you want to start off faster to compete in such a tough division.
Yeah.
But look, ultimately, what a bye week does, right? Like, he's healthy, he was running, he was athletic,
he was
moving
running
around, right? So, listen, and the weapons that are on the Bengals, T. Higgins,
Joe Mixon
Chase,
starting around back in the form too.
But all of a sudden, right, when Burrow's a little bit more athletic, right, and he can move around and throw the ball downfield, it opens up lanes for Mixon, right? So I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
Defense is playing well too right now.
Defense is playing well. So listen, like the Bengals, like what they're doing, obviously believe in Joe Burrow, and listen, they had a statement win. Now, I am not giving up on the 49ers.
Neither.
Guess what? They're going to have a week off.
They got a bye week now, too.
Let's see what they look like after their bye. Listen, like I said, I think Brock Purdy is still suffering from effects of the concussion.
Yeah, he tried to tough it out maybe this weekend.
With a week off now, I think you're going to see him get back to normal. Debo hopefully comes back. Trent Williams comes back.
Yeah.
They're going to be fully healthy. They added Chase Young.
And they're a physical team, too, so the rest is always important.
100%.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to be geared up for this second half run now.
I hear you. And listen, the big thing I look at the Bengals is, you know me, like my recipes are, can you run the ball? Do you have a stud quarterback? Do you have weapons? And can you get after the quarterback? Joe Burrow, check. Weapons, Chase, Boyd, Higgins, Mixon, check. Okay, can you get after the quarterback? Oh, yeah. Hendricks, check.
Really
Hubbard,
nice.
check. And they got a stud little linebacker in Logan Wilson, too, as well. I like where the Bengals are trending. The other game, though, there's actually two more. Cowboys versus the Rams. Listen, you know the Cowboys fans want to hear me say it.
Give them credit.
Hats off to you guys.
Listen.
Hats off to you guys. Complete game, offensively and defensively.
Dak played well.
But they played very well.
Dak.
Dak. I'm sorry. I misheard you. I said Dak played well.
Give Dak Prescott some credit.
Dak played a tremendous game. He really did. So did CeeDee Lamb, too. CeeDee Lamb had his best game of the season easily.
Look at what happens when you get him the ball.
Team all the way around performed, okay? I just don't want the Cowboys and the Cowboys fans to lose sight of the forest through the trees. You whooped up on the Rams. Whoop-de-doo. The game coming this week is the game that matters. You got to be up and play that same way because you're going to go play Philly.
Well, listen, let me say this, right? This past week against the Rams, it was the perfect letdown opportunity, right?
Fair.
They could have been looking ahead at
yep.
the Eagles and underestimated.
They did come off a
the
bye,
Rams.
though.
Granted, they did come off a bye, but they could have underestimated them. They didn't do that. They made a statement, right? They obviously worked on their offense. They got CeeDee Lamb the ball. And listen, here's what I noticed most in that game. Dak Prescott was using his legs, right, to buy more time, get the ball downfield. So I'm really interested to see if he continues that in this Philly game. If he continues that in the Phillies game, watch out. They might just surprise people.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's an interesting game right now because Philly wins. They've, I'm not going to say a stranglehold, but they've got pretty solid command on the division, and they kind of control their season. Dallas wins, man, all of a sudden the NFC gets really interesting. It gets 100%. Really interesting. But listen, hats off to the Cowboys. I can't wait, even though it's the two teams I can't stand. I can't wait to watch the game because at the end of the day, I'm a sports fan. I like watching great football games.
Listen,
that's gonna
hopefully
be a great game.
Matthew Stafford isn't tremendously hurt.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
Obviously,
they said he's day-to-day. He's not going to go on the IR.
He's consistently getting nicked ups, right? So let's just hope he's okay, right? Like, we want to see
Stafford's
the best
a tough
players
dude.
play 100%.
Yeah, Stafford's a tough dude. And we want to see the Rams because I feel like the Rams, along with the Vikings and the Rams are definitely going to be in the mix, I think, for that final playoff spot when all is said and done in the NFC. I think you've got like kind of the hierarchy in the NFC where it's, you know, again, it's the Eagles, it's the Niners, it's the Cowboys, it's the Seahawks. And then you're kind of just like, all right, there's probably 2 or 3 spots where it's like kind of anybody's game here. Agreed. I actually, one other team, side note, I really like the Saints win this victory, and the Saints' second half schedule really plays out nice for them. Wouldn't be shocked. And they're another one, top 10 defense.
Listen, I'm just worried about Derek Carr, right? Like, can Derek Carr be a true leader? Can he get the team, galvanize the team? And so, listen, good win, right, against the Colts. Again, can they do it together? First of all, can you get Chris Olave involved, please? Yeah. Right? I think all fantasy owners,
had one bad drop yesterday.
But here's the thing. It goes into
out
belief. If you're playing with fear, if you're playing with anxiety, right? The tight end dropped a game-time touchdown
2 weeks
pass,
ago,
right? 2 weeks ago. So again, like when you start to see those things, that's showing like the little uncomfortable things going on in the locker room, that there isn't this great chemistry. Listen, when you love your quarterback, when you're excited about your team, right, you go above and beyond. And right now, it looks like the Saints are playing a little tight. So let's see if they can get Chris Olave involved. Let's see if they can get their offensive scheme going, and then I'd be a believer in the Saints.
Interesting too, and they've been a heavy Taysom Hill too. Taysom Hill's having a little bit of a renaissance.
Get him involved, right? I think you need him
the last couple of
especially
weeks.
short yardage. You need him.
Yeah, it seems that whenever Taysom Hill plays well, it seems to somewhat like galvanize that team. He just seems to be a guy that really gets them all kind of worked up.
Again, they love him.
So, this last game, before we get into start of the week and our picks, Chiefs versus the Broncos. It was a real shocker. And again, I wore the costume. They might need Taylor Swift at the game this weekend because they're 0-2 without T. Swift in the building.
Listen.
You think overreact, not a big deal. They did play them 2 times, too, in the span of 18 days.
Taylor, we'd love to see you at the games,
We would.
right? This game, Patrick had the flu, right? And ultimately, you could tell he was drained. He was making mistakes, right? You could tell his timing almost like mentally was a little bit off, right? He was a tick slower. That's what I noticed in watching him play. Okay. Now, when your quarterback is sick, your wide receivers and skill position players have to step up.
Hold on, pause really quick though.
The case.
Rule number 76: no excuses. Play like a champion.
First of all,
listen, I'm a big Chiefs fan here, but Amon-Ra St. Brown was sick last night too.
First of all, it wasn't an excuse. I wasn't asking for any apologies.
All right.
I said the wide receivers need to step up.
They definitely need
When you have Sky Moore dropping a wide open touchdown pass, unacceptable.
Decrease his reps. Start getting Rashee Rice on the field more.
Listen, Rashee Rice definitely. Now, listen, he had a big drop in the game as well, right? So, I'm being 100% fair. So, listen.
But this has happened on a multitude of occasions.
Let me say this. The middle of the season, the Chiefs are always due, right, for a terrible loss. Last year, they lost to the Colts. The Colts only had 3 wins, and one of the wins were against the Chiefs, right? There were like 5 turnovers in that game. So the Chiefs are always good for a terrible loss in the middle of the season. But they're going to be fine. Believe in Patrick Mahomes. Hopefully, yes, the receivers start to develop. I wish they did something during the trade deadline. Obviously, there was not a lot of receivers available on the block. But listen, if Travis Kelce was to ever go down, right, the Chiefs would be in so much trouble.
Yes. No, they would. Their offense definitely needs to get going a little bit. Maybe that game was a little bit of the wake-up call that they needed. I can tell you right now, though, they got a big one coming up on Sunday because they got the Dolphins in Germany, and that could very well decide where the conference ends up going through.
That's what I was going to say, right?
Huge game.
Listen, for Miami to be taken seriously, this is the game you can win, and if the playoffs have to go through Miami. First of all, I would love that, right? Like, listen, Miami is a place
everybody likes the beaches in Miami.
Listen, you fall in love in Miami, right? You fall in love in Miami, right? So listen, like a part of me wants the Dolphins to win because listen, I'll go to a playoff games if it's in Miami, right? But listen, I digress. This is such an important game because if Miami wins, it proves they're for real, right? They're going to be set up to win the division.
Sure.
They're going to be set up to be in
potentially
place
win the conference
for the
too.
Best record in the conference, right?
And them and the Ravens probably.
Them and the Ravens, right? And so that gives you the opportunity to go, 13-4, right? Best record, get a first round bye, and now you only have to win 2 games to go to the Super Bowl. Again, that is the recipe for Miami to win. That's the recipe for the Chiefs to have been successful. Sure. Now, if it has to go through Arrowhead, right? I don't think the Miami Dolphins are physical enough, right, to be able to compete in those rougher weather conditions.
Well, so far, I mean, their record shows it. I mean, all of Miami's wins have been against below 500 teams. Their only losses have been to above 500 teams. So this is a big proving game for them. If they lose it, you kind of just look at Miami and like, they're fun, they're nice, but they're not going to make a major deep run. But I think it's a fantastic matchup, and I do expect 100%. An exciting game. Listen, we're about to go and get into picks. Before we get into picks, though, stud of the week.
You want me to go first?
It's up to you.
Listen, A.J. Brown.
A.J. Brown.
He's my stud of the week.
Fair.
Right, what he's done over the last, 4 or 5 weeks. They continue to win. He continues to dominate.
Okay.
He's my stud of the week. His connection with A.J. Brown, with Jalen Hurts has been amazing. What he means to that team is above and beyond, right? And we talk about Lamar living up to the contract.
Yep.
Jalen Hurts is living up to his contract, right? I think A.J. Brown now is underpaid, right? So
he's a beast,
there's a lot to go there, but my stud of the week, A.J. Brown.
All right. You know who my stud of the week is?
Uh-oh. How many papers you can flip through?
No, I just wanted to make sure I had the one. No, I have them. But, got it. Will Levis from the Titans, baby. Guys, I want to show you something about my man Will Levis, all right? This guy I was talking to a bunch of my friends last year because we weren't sure what to do, like with Daniel Jones and all this and that. I said, watch this quarterback from Kentucky, Will Levis. I really like the way he plays. Plays in the SEC. He's not like, he did play with Wan'Dale Robinson, actually, he had that. That was like his best weapon. But he didn't have weapons like a Chase or an Odell Beckham, guys like that. But all this guy did was make plays, play through injuries. The big knocks on him coming out of college were just he had a tendency to turn the ball over a little bit too much. But a big dude, could scramble and move a little bit, had a good arm, okay? All of a sudden he starts taking some shirtless pics, hat backwards, I think, one time, and he drops to a second rounder, okay? He was the third string quarterback coming into this season. So I was like, man, maybe in camp, they just saw something they didn't like, I don't know. But I was so curious to see how he played this weekend. 4 touchdowns, making the Titans all of a sudden look like, whoa, like that's a representative offense. So, I mean, hats off to him. First start ever, coming in there and throwing 4 TDs. I got to give it to my man, Will Levis, man. That was great. Honorable mention, though, the old man D-Hop, man. D-Hop had himself a game. Man, 4 receptions, I think 157 yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns.
3 touchdowns.
Yeah,
3 touchdowns. Hey,
so he's honorable mention.
Don't shortchange that man, all right?
That man,
but no, listen, I can't deny that, right? Will Levis, right? Like, hell of a performance, right? Really like.
I wanted to make sure I had the touchdowns right. That's why I looked in the papers.
No, absolutely. But listen, look, coming out of the draft, right? Again, mentally, his character, right? That's the only thing that was in question about him, right? He basically played in a little bit of a pro style offense, right? He has a strong arm.
Oh, he does.
Now, listen,
he's tough too.
Very tough. Listen, I think he's in the perfect city, right? I thought the Giants could snag him in the second round.
That's who I wanted the Giants to grab.
Some competition,
I wanted him to grab
but I don't think he was ready for New York, right? So I think New York may have been too big for him, right? But I think he's in the perfect place for Tennessee.
From a Southern school too, as well. I like that was a great identity for him to go.
Great coach, tough team,
and they went heavy to Henry too. That helped him a lot as well.
But you got to do it again. You can't be a one-hit wonder.
I'm with you.
Right? And all of a sudden, defensive coaches are going to start to develop tape on him. So let's see how he progresses.
100%.
Right? Is he going to be accurate? Like his accuracy is what I want to see.
Yep.
If he can be accurate, then he's going to be a for real quarterback.
Well, listen, big test for him again because he's going to go play Pittsburgh on Thursday Night Football. So
agreed.
If there's anybody who knows how to make rookie quarterbacks uncomfortable, it's good old Pittsburgh. But we can't wait any longer. We got to get to the picks. So wait, people, don't worry. Yeah, it's going to come out. We may as well just break it out right now. Yeah, guys, we call this the champ's hat. This is the winner's hat. And that's what you're looking at right here, a winner. So, sir, valiant effort. All right, you went 10-7. That Giants game helped you out a little bit. If you lost that, I don't even know if you wouldn't have even been in the double digits. You would have been 9-8. Still above 500. But Mallory takes the week with a astounding 14-3 on his picks. I mean, that's the best record we've had for either one of us this year. Just thought I'd mention that to the folks, So now we bring the career records this year.
It's not about how you start. It's about how you finish.
Yeah, well, let me tell you something, son. You better get started soon because this race is starting to get bad. Mallory right now, 77-46 on the year. He is 31 games above 500. You're 15 games over. You're 69-54. So, I mean, that's cute, too. That's good. But maybe a chance for you to gain some ground today. But, listen, we're going to go rapid fire on these picks, so.
Let's do it.
As I always do.
Good luck.
And the best man win. And, I will.
Titans versus the Steelers in Pittsburgh.
Titans versus Steelers in Pittsburgh. Who you got?
I'm going with the Steelers.
So am I. Like the Steelers. Again, at this point, though, if Levis goes and puts up another great game, then maybe we got ourselves a new little nice quarterback. But
let's slow down with that.
I like the Steelers. I like the Steelers to humanize them. Make them realize that this league's hard. Oh man, right off the bat, banger. Miami at Kansas City, technically in Germany. Who you got?
Who are you going with?
I'm gonna go with Kansas City. I'm gonna go with Kansas City, and I'll tell you why. Again, I'm from the show me state. You ain't got to tell me. You got to show me. Miami, show me that you can beat an elite NFL team. You haven't done it yet. And I think the difference is, I think while Miami will be able to score on Kansas City, I think Kansas City will be able to score on Miami. And I think Kansas City can get just enough stops. They have the clearly higher ranked defense between the two teams. I like Kansas City. And I want to get right. Don't tell me you're going to pull on Superman's cape and pick against them again. I mean, the Dolphins, this is your squad. This is your squad. The cute Miami Dolphins,
Listen. I'm sorry, Chiefs.
He's going. All righty. He's going Miami.
Listen, I think in rare form, do the Chiefs lose 2 in a row? And it's in Germany. That makes me nervous, right? It makes me concerned.
Okay.
Jalen Ramsey is back. I think this is the opportunity for the Miami to prove that they're for real. This game means more to the Dolphins than the Chiefs, and I think Miami pulls it out. They have one too many weapons that the Chiefs cannot guard, and so I'm going to go with Miami in this game. Even though, listen, here's the thing. If I'm wrong, I will be happy that I'm wrong.
All righty. Okay, this one's you. Minnesota at Atlanta.
Minnesota at Atlanta.
Interesting game.
I am going to go with the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah?
Right? Ultimately, they just got Joshua Dobbs, right? I don't know if he's going to have the proper connection with the receivers. I don't even know if he's going to learn the offense,
That's
right?
a good point.
I think this is an opportunity for the Falcons to sneak out a win, and I'm going to go with the Falcons.
Yeah, I like the Falcons now, too, just with Minnesota, with Kirk
Did
going
I just
down.
change your mind?
No, it's not even that. It's just with only 1 week to prepare Dobbs, I just don't like him stepping into a brand new offense and going on the road and winning a game. So.
Agreed.
Arizona at Cleveland. I'll take Cleveland. I just think they'd stack up better. I think they have the defense, and I think P.J. Walker can make just enough plays. Arizona has kind of showed us more and more who they really... Wait, Kyler Murray, I think, is actually back. He might be back this week, but I'll still take Cleveland.
I'm not sure that he's back. I know they got rid of Dobbs, but
Yeah.
I'm going with the Browns as well, right?
Okay.
I think this is a get-right game for them. I think that defense is going to beat up on that offense, right? I think P.J. Walker is going to make enough plays to win, and so I like the defense to step up, 27, 10 Browns.
All right. Rams at Green Bay.
Oh, this is an ugly game.
I already know where I'm going.
Where's it being played? It's in Green Bay.
It's in Green Bay.
I'm going to go with the Rams.
Yeah,
I'm assuming that Matthew Stafford's going to play, so I'm going to go with the Rams.
Yeah, I'm going with the Rams too. I just don't like what I see out of Green Bay. Jordan Love has looked very uncomfortable the last few weeks. He's really struggling. I just think the Rams have more pieces. I think they can attack in multiple ways. I do think it's a fairly high-scoring game, though, just because the Rams' defense has a propensity to give up plays as well. But yeah, I like
Big game by Aaron Donald.
Yeah, I like that. Green Bay just says they can't defend the run, and they have no run game. Washington at New England. You know what? This is me too, right? I'm going to take New England. I'm going to take them in New England. Washington is like one of those weird teams, right? They'll go play the Eagles really tough 1 week, and then they're the type of team that would go lose to New England in New England next week. And I feel like while Washington is probably the better team, it's just one of those games where, like, it's hard to explain, but, like, New England will find a way to beat Washington. So.
Listen, I agree with you, right? Bill Belichick makes young quarterbacks see ghosts, right? And I think Sam Howell is not prepared to go into New England and win. It's one thing when you're playing against the Eagles and the Cowboys and the Giants, and it's a in-division rivalry. They're going out to Boston and New England for this game.
Yeah.
I'm on the Patriots.
Curious your take on this one. Do we know if Fields is back this week?
I don't think he's back. I think he's at least a week away.
All right, so Chicago at New Orleans then. I probably was going to pick New Orleans.
Yeah, listen, I'm going with New Orleans.
I'm picking New Orleans. Chicago's defense is just not good.
Yeah, listen,
New Orleans
is a tough place to play.
Yeah, it is.
So the Bears aren't ready for it.
I don't see Tyson Bagent going into New Orleans and winning a game, unfortunately.
No.
Seattle at Baltimore. This is a good game.
Where are you going with this?
I'm going Baltimore. Seattle, they're good. I see flaws. Geno has been more inconsistent this year, throwing a lot of interceptions. I think you're going into Baltimore. I think the way that defense is playing right now, they're playing lights out again. They are either 1 or 2 in scoring. They are number 1 in sacks. They are top 5 in total yards. Baltimore's going to beat Seattle.
Listen, in a simple fashion, the Seattle Seahawks want to play physical. They want to play tough. You're going to try to do that in Baltimore. You're not going to be successful. I would expect a similar outcome to what the Ravens did to the Lions. So look for a big game from the Ravens, 30-17 Baltimore Ravens.
Get that Gus Bus going again too, man. We enjoyed that in fantasy. Woo! Nice pickup. I think this one's to you. Tampa Bay at Houston.
Ooh,
Interesting game.
A very interesting game. It's in Houston.
It is in Houston.
I'm going to go with the Texans with this one. Again, Baker versus CJ. Listen, the Texans have shown a lot of potential. I'm going to go with them, even though Tampa Bay has better weapons.
Yeah, this is a tough game. I'll be honest with you, because it's like CJ Stroud just kind of had like somewhat of a pedestrian game. He didn't throw any interceptions, but he didn't throw any touchdowns. His numbers were okay. Tampa seems like they're starting to somewhat revert back to form, but I feel like between the two teams, Tampa is slightly more talented, and that's why I'm going to give them a slight edge. I'm going to go Tampa.
Okay.
I got a little bit of a lead to play with here too, so I can take some risk, you know. Indianapolis at Carolina.
Listen, Carolina came off of a big win.
At Carolina.
It's at Carolina.
I'm going to go Carolina again. I'm going to ride this little hot streak, man. Their defense is actually not bad if their offense could sustain time on drives. Their defense can play some ball. Indy seems like they're struggling a little bit right now with like their identity and who they are. I like Carolina and Carolina.
So I think, listen, I actually want to agree with you. Right?
Okay.
But as I think about this game, you come off of your first win, a big win, right?
The letdown.
The letdown. Listen,
I hear you.
For the Panthers have every reason to win this game, so I'm going to go with the Colts.
Sometimes it's just like that. I get what you're saying.
Right? There's no reason why Indy should win. I'm going to go with Indy.
And at this point, you have to try and break with me wherever you can.
Well, it's not even that. Like, I actually think the Panthers, are probably going to win this game, right? They got it healthy in the offensive line, so I'm interested to see what they're going to do. But I just think this is just one of those games that the Colts are going to pull out.
All right. I don't even want to pick this game. Giants at Vegas.
Oh.
This is your lead, right?
All right.
This is your lead.
I mean, this is just ugly on top of ugly, right? But I am not. Oh my God, Daniel Jones is playing this week, right?
I think he is.
Listen, I'm not going against the New York Giants. I'm not betting I'm not betting on Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm just not.
I'm with you. Their offense, the Vegas offense to me is just so bad. And the way the Giants defense played well enough yesterday to win the game. Yeah. I think they can find a way and figure it out against Vegas. So I like the Giants, but still, big boy game, baby. Dallas at Philly, the division, big stakes.
Where are you
big
going?
Stakes here. I mean, listen, this is basically me against you in terms of who we pick for the division. You know where I'm going. I'm going Philly, man. Listen, Dallas, same thing with the other teams. You got to show me, okay? You got to show me. You've beaten up on a couple of meddling teams, okay teams. You got smoked by the one real challenge that you had this year. You got beat by the Cardinals, too. That was not obviously a good win. Again, just like Miami, show me that you can go and beat a big-time team, big-time name. Till then, I'm going with Philly.
Listen,
we know where you're going.
7-1. The Eagles are killing it. A.J. Brown, 121 yards average per game, right? Top offensive line, top defensive line. The Eagles should dominate. They have every reason to win.
And that's why I'm picking the Cowboys.
You said it, not me. Listen, the Cowboys are hungry. They want it more. They need it more, right? And listen, I think they're going to be hungry dogs. I think they're going to be desperate. This is a Micah Parsons game, and I think he's going to do damage. I am concerned about Jalen Hurts' knee. I don't think he's going to be as mobile. Okay. I don't think he's going to move around. The Cowboys might not be a better team, but I think this is the opportunity. The Eagles are a better team, but I think this is a spot where the Dallas Cowboys shocks the world and wins this game.
Interesting. All right. I can't wait for it. I think it's going to be a great game. That's Sunday night. Final game of the week, Monday night. We've got did I leave?
No, we got 2 games left.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
2 games left.
Oh, Buffalo at Cincinnati. It's another great game. That's the Sunday night game. I apologize. Sunday night game, yeah. You already know where I'm going. Roar, baby, roar. Don't step near the Tiger's cage. I'm going Bengals all the way in this
Listen, I'm following you, right? Like, listen, I'm not betting against Joe Burrow right now.
Joey cool, man.
That's going to be that's going to be an emotional game. Ultimately, the Buffalo Bills have been a little Jekyll and Hyde. They just had a solid game, so I expect them to be disappointing.
Hyde's coming out,
yeah. So listen, I think we're going to see a dominating performance. Something 34-24 Bengals.
Yeah, it wouldn't be surprising on the higher scoring side. Finally, this is a decent game too. And an important game for both teams. Los Angeles Chargers at the New York Jets. Where you going, brother?
Listen, I'm going to go with the Jets, man. Right? I'm a believer. Listen, at the end of the day, the Jets have been pulling it out.
Okay.
Right? I think they have belief. They're waiting for Aaron Rodgers. Zach Wilson will make enough plays, and I think the Jets pull it out.
I think the Chargers need this one more, and much to the chagrin of production back here, Shawnee, who is a big Jets fan, I'm going to take the Chargers because if they lose this game, to me, it's tough for them because that puts them at, I believe, 3-5. They're not out of it completely, but it's weird. I think that as good as the Jets defense is, the Chargers defense is weird. They're like strangely talented. They just have up and down kind of performances. I feel like this is one of those games where if they could actually show up and just play a good game, their offense going to be able to make enough plays, and they need this game to kind of get themselves back in the playoff race. It would put both teams at the same record. I'm going to take the Chargers.
Okay. Listen, I don't believe in their coach Staley, so
I hear you on that.
Let's see what happens.
Listen, I hear you on that. But listen, that wraps up another week of Run It Back. But before we go away, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, please like, comment, and subscribe. This is how we grow this. Episode 10. Episode 10.
Big milestone.
We're not going anywhere.
Not going anywhere. Appreciate the love. Like, comment, subscribe. Follow us on all the major platforms.
And you'll see us next week when we
Run It Back.
Run It Back.